And we are a go. So, hello, everybody. First of all, sorry I haven't posted anything here. It's been a while. I've been learning my editing techniques. Today, I am joined by my good friend and fellow nerd, Max.
Hello, nerds.
Today, we're going to be talking about what's going on over at WotC, our Wizards of the Coast. If you're in the D&D community, you've probably already heard about this drama. But it's not so much drama as something that could affect the entire future of the D&D community. So Max, you alongside me, have been a D&D dungeon master for a while, and you said you were playing in a campaign for a while too.
Yeah, I've been playing D&D since I was a freshman, so that would have been around 2019, 2020, right when the pandemic hit. And I've been playing with this specific group since July of 2020. And then I started DMing back in the summer of last year.
Yeah.
So basically, it's me, Mystic, and a bunch of our friends, and we just do tomfoolery most of
Yeah.
the time.
Uh, and I played in my first campaign back when I was a sophomore in high school, which was, God, I think like 2015, 2016.
It's been a while.
Uh, but I hadn't played for a few years after that. Then back in like 2019, I was doing a campaign with some of my friends, but that stopped. And me and Max met on this Minecraft server, and Max here was like, "Yeah, so I'm thinking about doing a D&D campaign." I'm like, "All right, I'll join." And then
And we've been friends ever since.
recently, within the past couple of months, I think it's been like 2 months ago, I started my own 5th edition campaign that I am running as a dungeon master. And I currently play in 3 D&D sessions a week. So, I
I wish I could do that.
so I think when it comes to this topic, we're in a position where we can give, a pretty accurate thought assessment on it. Considering that all 3 of the sessions I'm in are heavily homebrewed, and I know Tinies and Giants, which is the session you run, is pretty heavily homebrewed.
But not so much homebrew, it's basically just the world setting and a couple of handful of spells and magic items that I made on my own time, as well as some D&D races
Yep.
that my friends and I have kind of collaborated together to make.
Yeah, because, see here, there's the Castians, which are completely original,
Mm-hmm.
alongside, whatever our little potted plant boy is.
Potlings, basically potted plant creatures.
Then there's the, Animal Folk supplement I sent you. That
Mm-hmm.
is not official. That is full homebrew. I don't remember who made that homebrew, but it is full homebrew. Uh,
It was like a
and
whole Google Drive.
yeah, and my session I run on Mondays, Adventures in Shadonia, takes place in a world completely of my creation, almost inhabited entirely by races that I've had to homebrew stats for, with custom magic items, magic spells, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But have you heard about the recent leak about what they're going to do to D&D Beyond?
Uh, all I've heard is that people have now started canceling their D&D Beyond subscriptions, which I haven't. I don't really care for D&D Beyond. I am D&D Wiki dot all the way.
I have never paid for D&D Beyond. I think the only time I use D&D Beyond is if I need to look up something that's official, like the classes or something.
Yeah, the
But outside
only
of that,
thing.
I
Go
use the
ahead.
5e wiki. Outside of that.
Yeah, the only thing that I have ever used D&D Beyond for is when I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons. But also, I bought a book from them way before all this drama started, Tasha's Cauldron, which is a book I love to this day.
Yeah, that's what makes this whole situation a real big kick in the teeth. Uh Wizards of the Coast has basically made quite honestly one of the biggest cult classic tabletop RPGs. Like, when you talk about a tabletop RPG and you just say TTRPG, everyone thinks, oh, he's talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Even though you could be playing, say, Pathfinder, which is the second biggest system, or some other TTRPG.
Mhm.
Like,
There's also systems like Ryutama, Blades in the Dark,
yeah,
Glitter Hearts, which is a system that I recently got into thanks to a podcast.
yeah. Honestly, when it comes to TTRPGs, everyone knows D&D. Even if you don't play D&D, you know some of the memes, like a barbarian only uses rage and wizard only uses fireball. You know, everyone knows the jokes and the end sources. And recently, we actually received another leak from credible sources within Wizards of the Coast that there's going to be changes to D&D Beyond coming soon. Basically, they're going to introduce this new tier-based system for this new virtual tabletop that you can use, which doesn't sound like a bad thing, personally. I think the idea of an official virtual tabletop that could be used for, say, Adventurers League, which is the official Wizards of the Coast D&D campaign sessions, that could be pretty neat, in my opinion. But what they're doing is, for the basic 2 tiers, we know there's going to be 3 tiers. The first 2 tiers are not going to allow you to use homebrew content at all. Like, period. No homebrew.
Just full on D&D content, nothing else.
It is full on base D&D. And I believe I'm one of the minority. I know the rules for base D&D, but a lot of them make our job as Dungeon Master really fucking complicated. Like, try running an official wizard, and you'll see just how painful it is. Not only do you have to have spells prepared, you also have to keep track of your items you have to use to cast the spells because they all cost something. Then you have ritual casting and crafting and tools and all of this other crap that just makes the job of the DM a lot worse. And that's why I use homebrew so much, is because with homebrew, I can make a session that is not just fun for me as the DM, but fun for my players too, and doesn't slow the session down a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I do, especially since I tend to DM for a lot of new players and teach them how to play D&D through my D&D sessions. Like, I introduce mechanics like difficult terrain. I introduce stuff like conditions and damage resistance and immunities and stuff like that. So, for something like this to happen, it just hinders new players from coming online and playing more of Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs in general.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I'm gonna share a little story for you. When my second DM, henceforth referred to as just Limbo, as that's the username he uses. Limbo wanted to host a 5e D&D campaign centered around a world of his creation that mostly focused on the war between the human kingdom and this lich. Well, we come through and we have a new player and a fucking rules lawyer. Well, I wanted to play I wanted to play a wizard. And me and the rules lawyer got into an argument when Spooky, or Limbo, decided that I could not decided that I didn't have to keep track of my spells prepared and shit. Which basically allowed me to cast any of my spells from my spell book at any time without having to sacrifice gold or any other materials. And this really made our rules lawyer really mad, like real mad, because he didn't like the idea that I, as a wizard, could cast any of my spells at any given time, and he was playing a warlock and didn't get that same, capability. But for me, doing wizards like that just makes the class a lot easier and more approachable. Because if I had my exact reasoning to them was, if I had to use spells prepared, why would I not just keep a bunch of combat spells prepared that I know I'm going to need? And that's actually where the joke of Fireball only wizard comes from, because Fireball is very effective when you learn the spell. Why the heck do you need anything else prepared? And that's my problem with removing homebrew, because then you are basically telling people like me who don't want to deal with those complicated mechanics that, basically we should go fuck ourselves.
Yeah, and the thing also with homebrew is just mixing up a ton of rules. It what makes the game fun and what makes the game comfortable for not only hardcore players, but
Mm-hmm.
also beginner players and those who are really into like role play and storytelling,
Yeah,
which is what a good majority of my groups are, is storytelling and just having a laughs and memes and the whole collection of the funny gifs.
yeah, the customization. I think last session we went for 30 minutes just between my character and his NPC brother in
Yeah, because
roleplay.
that's what makes it fun, is just making connections and having these storylines and to have stuff to look back on like, wow, this is a really fun game.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The removing homebrew like that is wrong, sure. But there are official storylines that I hear are pretty good. Now, if you were removing homebrew and going, okay, you can't use homebrew, but we'll give you all of these supplements that you could use, it wouldn't be as atrocious. But from what I can tell, they're not doing that.
Which is what sucks, because you're not giving us any replacements for homebrew. You're just saying, nope, here's what you get, and that's all it is.
Now, a common argument I see following the removal of homebrew is, well, you couldn't use homebrew in Adventurers League anyway. But that's not the point. They're pushing this virtual tabletop not to be used for Adventurers League, but to be used by your common DM. And if I can't use homebrew, why would I not just use Roll20 instead, which is better, and I can host any TTRPG on Roll20, not just D&D.
Yeah, and that's what's good about certain websites, is like with stuff like Roll20, is you could do more with it than just Dungeons and Dragons. You can even put your own homebrew in there.
Yeah,
With
exactly.
D&D Beyond, like this Nerve virtual tabletop with these 3 tiers, if you're only doing those first 2 tiers, you're not getting any of that.
Well, supposedly, the first tier would be a basic subscription. And the second tier would give you access to supplemental books. But the third tier is what really pisses me off. The third tier, we know this third tier, they're going to price it at $30 a month. And this third tier would give you access to being able to do homebrew and stuff. I'm not paying $30 a month for something I can do on Roll20 for free. Not only that, they did have an idea that honestly could be fun. They'd be introducing an AI dungeon master for people who can't always find a game. In theory, that's a great idea, but in practice, I have a feeling that wouldn't really work out because an AI could never amount to what a human dungeon master could achieve. Now, if this AI was, say, a dungeon master's assistant, helping you keep track of what all of your enemies can do and all of that, that could be actually really useful, especially when you get into large scale combat situations.
Yeah, yeah. I think in theory it's a good idea. Just like the overall I can speak. Execution I is great.
You're fine.
Can we just have that in there?
Well, all of this is getting uploaded raw. This is like a podcast, girl.
Oh no. Okay. Well, fair enough. But yeah, I think the execution of it is where it's gonna fall.
Ultimately, uh, I think the people that are jumping ship and moving to, say, Pathfinder, I mean, I get why you would want to do that right now. I really do. But instead of jumping ship, we need to make Wizards of the Coast realize, they can't just bully us out and take control of the TTRPG space. I mean, they need. Well, it's actually gone on record. I'll read an exact quote from the source, right? These are a direct quote. They view us and the community as a whole as obstacles to their money.
And that's not really something you should think about from a business standpoint, especially if you are the company behind one of the probably most successful TTRPGs in history, and as well as most popular.
Oh yeah, Gary Gygax is rolling over in his grave at this.
Yeah.
Not only that, but he goes on to explain that the suits at Wizards of the Coast, the people that are actually making these decisions, actively hate people in the community like Blaine Simple, like Critical Role, who are making money off of D&D. They actively hate that we are making money off of something they created and feel that we shouldn't be making money, period.
Well, and that's just their fault, honestly. If they think that, well, hold on, let me word this correctly. If they think that they deserve some money that like all of the money that certain people make, why don't you go to like big businesses like Nintendo? They are basically on like the same mainframe as you. They don't they don't steal any money from Pokemon creators like Pokemon Challenges, Purple Cliff, Jade Animations, Alpharad. People like that who
Yeah.
are literally making money off of their games. They're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, no, we're gonna take all of your money. No, they like actively share their fair
Yeah,
share with it.
yeah, but at the same time, Nintendo also shuts down fan-made projects such as Pokemon Uranium.
That is true.
So, honestly, when you look at it though, look at say Rare, the video game company Rare. They have a game called Sea of Thieves, and there are several big YouTubers who play this game. They stream it, they make money off of it. Does Rare go, oh, you owe us royalties, or oh, you owe us all that money because we own that game? No, no, they don't do that. And a lot of companies don't do that. Why? Because big name creators like Critical Role, like Blaine Simple, like Puffin Forest, these kinds of people, they're free publicity. These are people that are going to convince other people to buy your products. By you stating that they owe you all this money and that they have to report what they make off of your product, that's downright disgusting. You are basically telling the entirety of the D&D community that you don't give a shit, that you want your money. They are actively sinking this game.
It is very sad for people like me who actually find comfort in games like this. Like, you're basically taking away someone's safe space, and D&D has been a safe space for me since the pandemic even started.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to decide I have to go learn Pathfinder or some other system because of a scummy company. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. In fact, my other DM friend Limbo, he actively said that he doesn't want to learn another system. That it took him over a year to learn all of D&D, and he still doesn't know all of it because he's been a DM for so long. He had never played as a player until I stepped up as Dungeon Master. And I know there are a lot of people out there like that, but Wizards of the Coast isn't listening to the actual problem. It's not that we want them to change anything, it's that we don't want them to change anything.
Yeah, so bottom line, basically, Wizards of the Coast, if you are watching this, which I doubt you are, which I can swear, right?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Fuck you.
Yeah, yeah, no. Wizards of the Coast suits, like to the Wizards employee who's probably having to watch this, and has probably watched a lot of people bitching. I don't have any qualms against those of you who have actually leaked this information. You have done the community a favor by letting us know of these scummy practices. You know, when they released, when they tried to push OGL 1.1 through, they released it to content creators and said, alright, here's the contract, sign it. And now they're trying to claim that that was draft language. You don't send a contract out with a draft.
Yeah, if you wanted to send out a draft, you would say so, like, hey, this is stuff, please get feedback on it if necessary. Don't just go, hey, have this, sign it, do you have a week, or else you're dead, basically.
Yeah. They're basically saying either you sign this and you give us permission to take your shit, or we take you to court and get our money anyway. And actual lawyers have stated that even if they do push the no OGL out, if we as the community don't sign it, they cannot get rid of the previous OGL or any content made under it. All of the content made under OGL 1.0, which is what we use right now, is protected by law. It is legally ours and not Wizards of the Coast unless we sign. Now, this isn't to say that Wizards asking for royalties is bad, because yeah, you're kind of making money off of systems that they created. So having to pay royalties is something you would expect. But not them saying, hey, if we give you 30 days notice, we could take your shit.
Yeah, and as someone who is also an artist and a content creator and has dealt with art theft and video theft in general, this is actually very hindering to beginner content creators, artists, commissioners, anything related to stuff on the internet that could be stolen at any moment.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. It's tedious. It's ridiculous. It's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, like, you and I were working on a project to, possibly bring Tinies and Giants onto YouTube in a similar style to the Fool's Gold campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we did that, we can't do it now because I know what Wizards of the Coast is going to do. I have a very good feeling that what Wizards is going to do is they're going to wait for all the drama to die down. They're going to hope we're going to forget, and then they're going to push OGL 1.1 through. Even if we don't forget, they're going to push it through and force larger content creators to try and sign this, to basically sign away your rights to whatever you make. And that's just not going to happen. They are literally going to kill Dungeons & Dragons. After all of the effort we as the D&D community put in, the company that made D&D is going to kill our hobby. And that is just sad. And, you know, a lot of people say this, you know, like, oh, 343 Industries is killing Halo, or, oh, this company is killing this. No. In this situation, Wizards is killing it. And I'm actually going to reference what happened back in 2020. Do you remember what happened back with Games Workshop and the Warhammer 40k community?
Oh my gosh, yes, I do.
The reason Games Workshop didn't fucking sink themselves when they did that is because they had what we call GW stands, or people that will buy their products regardless of what they do. Because, you know, oh, Games Workshop is canon, it's lore. And ever since then, Games Workshop has been either suing or taking down people that put out 3D models and 3D prints that even remotely look like 40k. Like, it could be a completely different universe or completely homemade, but it looks like 40k, therefore it's ours. And then you got to go through a long legal process to be able to put your shit back up on wherever you had it. The reason Games Workshop hasn't sunk because of that is because of their large legion of fans that are going to buy their products regardless. What Wizards didn't expect, Wizards expected something like that they would have people that would stand with them and, you know, back them up. No, the entirety of the D&D community and even beyond are just absolutely livid that they would have the audacity to think that they could get away with this.
Yeah, basically, Wizard of the Coast is just digging themselves a grave and keeps digging it. Basically, what they need to do is they need to find a way out of it and patch it up and basically return things to the way they were. But the damage has already been done, so we're not going to forgive you for this. And if Wizard of the Coast think that we're just going to forget it and they're going to push it anyways, we are probably going to push back 10 times stronger than their entire staff team.
Oh yeah, in the past weekend alone, over 50,000 people or more have canceled their D&D Beyond subscriptions. They have started losing thousands of dollars, millions maybe, due to this. And the thing is, they don't get what the actual problem is. Their official response in it, they literally said, and I quote, "You're going to hear people say that they've won and we've lost because your voices made us change our minds." Well, that's not entirely true. You won, but so did we. They are literally gaslighting us, expecting us to fucking roll over and take this.
Wizards of the Coast is doing the wrong gaslight gatekeep girl boss.
Yeah. Okay, Wizards. I'm going to address you directly. I love D&D. I fucking love D&D. And what I love about it is that I can customize it how I see fit. I can drop rules. I can introduce rules. Hell, I literally made my own version of the deck of many things with 61 total cards in it. If I didn't love something, I wouldn't spend so many hours every fucking week doing it. But my biggest problem right now is that instead of backtracking and going, okay, we won't release the new OGL, you're still trying to release the new OGL. You are literally doing what is pissing all of us off. And since no one at your company seems to be smart enough to realize this, allow me to tell you this. You push that OGL through, it won't be D&D Beyond subscriptions you'll have to worry about. We'll just stop buying your shit altogether. We'll stop doing Dungeons & Dragons, and we will move on to a different fucking system.
Yeah, and that's what I've been thinking of doing myself, is I have seen a lot of systems that have been overlooked and underrated and have way more potential than, in my opinion, D&D ever could with their content. And
yeah, I mean, look, okay, don't get me wrong. The biggest strength of Dungeons & Dragons 5e is that it's very streamlined and relatively easy to learn. And that's its biggest strength. Is, you can customize it to be as complex or as easy to play as you want. But then you have things like Pathfinder or the Pokemon tabletop RPG or the Star Wars tabletop RPG. You got a lot of TTRPGs out there. Some are as complicated can get, and some are really easy to learn, but they all get overlooked because D&D has been this long-standing flagship of the brand. I think D&D was actually the first TTRPG, if I remember correctly.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Let me fact check that real quick.
Yeah. Let's fact check that, because I know Gary Gygax made it back in, I think, the 70s.
Yeah, it was Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, I thought so. And see, what Wizards forgets is the reason they started making so much money off of it is because of things like Critical Role in the community. If it wasn't for the community coming out and doing YouTube and, making D&D this super interesting thing, then it would still be something that was only played in basements and dark closets by nerds. You wouldn't be making a lot of money. And this comes off of the back of Wizards of the Coast already pissing off the Magic the Gathering community. Their second largest flagship title.
And also, Magic the Gathering is actually something that Mystic introduced me to, and I've been loving it a lot. So to see two big things that a friend of mine introduced me to just well, not maybe not Dungeons and Dragons, but definitely Magic the Gathering, just kind of burning up by the stake with a lot of oil. It just saddens me.
Yeah, that's the problem with modern corporations. You see, back in the day, like when Gary Gygax made D&D, he never expected for it to get as big as it did. It was probably just something he played with his friends, and then he was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to publish this book, and I'm going to see if other people enjoy it. And then it started getting bigger and started gaining traction. And people started to enjoy it. Hell, my dad introduced me into Dungeons and Dragons because he used to play 3.5e back in high school.
We don't talk about 4E in this video.
No, we don't talk about 4e. 4e
No, no, no,
doesn't
no. We
exist.
don't. It's like the Disney's Bruno.
I'm not gonna lie. I have seen gameplay of 4e. I am really glad that they made 5th edition because 4th edition looks like absolute hell. That being said, though, my dad literally played when the first edition of Pathfinder came out, and it was funny. Is you know how I'm playing a barbarian in Tinies and Giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what class he played?
Did he also play a
He
barbarian?
played a barbarian, and and that's why I was like so ecstatic to get into Dungeons and Dragons and start playing. And that's actually why I thought of the barbarian right off the bat, is because Dad used to play it. But when I started Dungeons and Dragons, it was me, my 2 brothers, my dad, and his coworker as our DM, and it was a lot of fun. And it was that same fucking coworker who helped me build my first Magic the Gathering deck. So
There's a lot of like memories and nostalgia within the system and the different like customization, which is something that I've enjoyed since I started playing it.
yeah,
And so to see that all of that taken away,
yeah,
you're
Wizards is basically going, fuck the community, we want our money. If they want to play our game, they'll have to pay us to play it. Well, here's my response to that. Go ahead. Push out OGL 1.1. You'll go from losing a couple 100,000 in D&D Beyond subscriptions to losing all sales of D&D pretty much entirely. Because as it is, I never bought an official book. My official D&D core rules book that I have in my room right now, that was a gift. That was a gift given to me. I have never bought anything official from Wizards of the Coast, aside from my Magic the Gathering cards. And even with that, that was all the way back when, Aether Revolt came out. And that was back when I was a senior in high school, like 5-6 years ago at this point. So, at the end of the day, I'm just not going to purchase anything from Wizards anymore. And
see. You want to know how I learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons?
Was it by reading wikis?
No, actually, it was a D&D podcast, which I still love to this game, called Hero Squad Under the Dragon Shadow, and a 31 video playlist on YouTube. I didn't buy any books. I didn't read anything. I just watched videos and listened to a podcast.
I didn't read anything either. When we were told we were going to play D&D, my dad came in with his coworker, and his coworker's like, "Hey, your dad said you're kind of interested in Dungeons and Dragons," and I'm like, "Yeah, it seems really cool. It's a role playing game that's pretty cool." And he was like, "All right, well, when we do it, do you have any idea of what class you want to play?" And from there, I just started asking questions. And my first character was a half elf? No, high elf. Yeah, he was a high elf wizard named Aragon. And
I remember that.
and we only lasted like 5 sessions before he accidentally TPK'd the entire party.
Oh no. I'm so glad I haven't TPK'd you guys yet.
Well, the reason he had wound up TPKing us is because he put us up against a flesh golem and a hag raven. Now,
Yep.
the thing was, both of these have a challenge rating of, I think, 5, meaning the party needs to be at least level 5 to fight one of these creatures. We were level 4.
Yep.
And our party consisted of a barbarian who didn't know how to rage, a rogue who was really good at stealth but didn't know how to use sneak attack properly, a paladin who could only do so much, and me as a wizard who only had a few spell slots. And I think that's what really pisses all of us in the community off, is memories like that. Memories from this game, like, say, the obelisk encounter, or accidentally freeing a freaking Tarask with karaoke. You know, that's the kind of moments that stick with you and you remember for years. And
I still remember the time where this was back when I first played D&D with the group that I play with today. A boss fight lasted 2 turns because our cleric cast banishing on it, and it rolled really freaking low and it saved.
I remember another friend of mine was going to do a party. The whole idea that behind his campaign was that our party was going to be helping this like max level party fight against this lich and its undead armies. Well, the problem with that is when you have a max level party, you're going to have a lot of magic swag that winds up getting given to these lower level characters. And this is actually where I discovered the broken cleric paladin multiclass in the form of Cora Draconagus. She was a war domain cleric who took paladin, could cast 3rd level divine smite, use her channel divinity to give her a guaranteed plus 10 to hit. Then she was also resistant to fucking magic attacks and had this berserker. I mean, he basically made this character so broken that if I were to bring it over into any other campaign, it would easily be the most powerful member of the party.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that she had 78 hit points.
Yeah, and an armor class of 19. No, she had a 20 in her armor class.
Which is, it's not the highest AC that I've seen, but it's really freaking high.
Yeah, especially for a level 5 character. Having a 20 AC plus a extra 2, because as a bonus action she could extend her shield into a tower shield. But because of this, she was really tanky and did so much damage. And she wasn't the only character I played in that campaign. I was playing 2 characters at the same time.
Which you've known to be very good at, as I've seen in the Tinies and Giants campaign.
Yeah. I could play multiple characters, but that comes from years of online roleplay. I mean, I have done roleplays where I was playing 6 characters all in the same room at the same time with different personalities talking to each other and the other person's character.
And that's probably one of my favorite things about D&D is that when it comes to roleplay, you could do anything with roleplay as long as the party is okay with it and the group in general is okay with it.
Oh yeah.
And that's a fond memory for me, is just listening to people roleplay and having these sad, happy, angry, funny moments even.
Yeah, like
the just pure joy and excitement.
Like Fodron and Stitch getting married. Originally that was just supposed to be a joke. That I had decided, you know what, I'm gonna mess with him. I'm gonna make this a joke because I knew he was a I knew he was both experimenting with his own self in real life, and also liked the roleplay aspect. So I had talked to him in private, and we're like, yeah, we'll screw around with this. And then it just wound up evolving into them actually getting married and being the gay power couple of the group.
I will never forget the text that you sent me asking if Aldrin could have like a ring that's like a family thing. And me questioning, why does he need a ring? And then cut to next session, and then that happens. And let me tell you, I face palmed so many times that session. Like, I think I lost count after 7. Because I wasn't expecting it. One of my favorite things about DMing for you guys is your unpredictability.
Oh yeah, that is my favorite thing about dungeon mastering as well, because you could be like, all right, so here's the story, here's the plot, and then you go, yeah, well that farmer's acting kind of sus over there, so I'm gonna go investigate that frickin' farm. And then you start making up things, and you're like describing this farmer go through their normal daily routine. But there's little things here and there, and then the party finds out, oh, this farmer's part of a cannibal cult. Was that part of the initial story? No.
No.
Did I kind of make it up on the fly because they decided to investigate this farmer? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's to bring this full circle back to Wizards. That is what kills anything they plan to do with 1D&D. In fact, I've heard that 1D&D, which is supposed to be the next version of Dungeons and Dragons, the next edition, I hear it fucking sucks. I hear the mechanics suck, and that it is nothing like modern D&D, and that it's going to try to appeal to a wider audience, and that at the end of the day, it's so different from 5th edition that it's basically 3E compared to 4E all over again.
Yep.
Yep. But don't quote me on that. Like, I would be fully willing to give 1D&D a shot if I didn't have to sign away my rights as a player. Because more than likely, what they're going to do is, if the backlash doesn't die down and they don't get any more subscriptions or anything like that, is they will probably make it to where to play 1D&D, you basically are signing OGL 1.1. Which will cause basically myself and everyone else to say, fuck it, we're not doing that. We're going to stick with 5th edition or play a different game. And we know that 1D&D is slotted to release either next year or the year after. Because we know that this year is the last full year of 5th edition official support. So that means that next year, if they don't push OGL out this year, they are definitely going to push it out with 1D&D next year.
Yeah, and the thing about 1D&D is that I've heard good things about it, I've heard bad things about it. I myself don't really care for it. I like to stick with what's comfortable and what I'm familiar with without jumping straight into something new that is not even like D&D. 5th edition.
Yeah. Personally, that's actually why a lot of people have swapped at Pathfinder, because Pathfinder was originally D&D 3.5e, but then it became its own thing and became Pathfinder, not Dungeons & Dragons. And apparently, it's like D&D, like the older versions, where there was a lot more math and stuff involved. But a lot of content creators are going, well, we'll just run Pathfinder instead then. And I can understand why you would want to swap to that, because Pathfinder is at least relatively similar to D&D. But for me, I'm going to keep running my campaign in 5th edition until 1.1 comes out. And if they wind up pushing it out and they push it out, and they don't fucking listen to the community, and they just basically tell us all to go fuck ourselves, I and a lot of my friends are going to shift to some other TTRPG, or just stop doing TTRPGs in general.
Yeah, and the thing with me is I'm in the same boat as you, Mystic. I'm going to continue doing Tinies and Giants until after the campaign ends or when this OGL stuff eventually gets out into the world. And then we're going to switch to something else,
Yep.
which I'm fine with. I am fully welcome to teaching any of my other friends how to play different tabletop RPGs.
I think the only TTRPG aside from D&D I played was the Pokemon tabletop RPG. But I think the specific one I played got taken down by a fucking copyright claim because it was completely homemade. Which, if that's the case, that really sucks because that was a really interesting system. Well, we had homebrewed it to where we were playing as the Pokemon instead of the trainers because in it you were supposed to play as the trainers. And each trainer could have like 6 Pokemon with them, just like the games. It was a really cool system, you could be a Pokemon breeder or a scientist or this, that, and the other. It was really neat. Yeah, you had all of the Pokemon from every generation. You had Mega Evolution and Gigantamax and everything, side by side. It was a really cool idea. And in that campaign, I played as a shiny Midnight Lycanroc. And we had, I think it was an Absol, a Goodra, and I can't remember what the last guy played because he didn't stick around for too long. And it was fun. It only lasted a few sessions, but it was fun as heck. And
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that too many people look at TTRPGs and they don't see these other fun systems. They just see D&D.
Yeah, and for me personally, I have seen a few different tabletop role-playing games, and I've listened to a couple of D&D podcasts. And I can say in my experience, I have played D&D Glitter Hearts. But I do know of like other systems like Ryutama, which is a Japanese translated into English tabletop role-playing game about dragons. And then Blades in the Dark, which is basically all rogues, let's go do some crimes.
Yeah. Well, I believe that now would be a good time to end off our first podcast together.
Yeah.
So, to all of you watching, thank you for watching. How do you feel about Wizards of the Coast and what they're trying to pull? Sound off in the comments or, whatever. And if you agree, cancel your D&D Beyond subscription and just stop buying official content. Instead, buy content from secondhand creators like Blaine Simple, who recently redid his anime into D&D handbook.
Ooh.
Personally, I would only support homebrew content creators. So, if that's something you're interested in, check them out. And really think about if you even want to keep playing official rules, period. Because they're going to try and push us out. They're not going to forget, and they're not going to stop, and they're not going to go back to the original. Because, the suits are just that way. So, Max, thank you for joining me for my first podcast.
Yeah, of course. Please use the comments as a swear jar. I will have it right here. just scream it to it if you want to.
Regardless, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me and Max in our little discussions. And if you have any suggestions for future talks, I'd be down to hear them. Until next time, I'm Mystic, and this is Jester Max.
Hello.
Have a great day.